Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure to be with you today. I really wished that I was able to attend in person in Lebanon, but due to a number of urgent commitments, I've had to be only able to join you by video. But I really thank you all for attending, and I want to say a big thank you to the International Center for Human Sciences, SISH, UNESCO, Biblos, most especially the distinguished director of the center, Dr. Darina Abichedid, for the opportunity and for the kind invitation. It's indeed a wonderful conference and opportunity to be part of this international forum on environmental humanities. And I want to say congratulations to SISH and to all the collaborators for organizing such a remarkable conference. I bring you compliments and greetings from all of us at the UNESCO Chair on Environmental Law and Sustainable Development in Doha, Qatar. I will be speaking today on the topic of the systems approach to COVID-19 response and recovery, the importance of the systems approach to sustainability development, to sustainability rather. I will be speaking on the importance of a systems approach to sustainability and how lessons from COVID-19 can help us to understand why a systems approach is indeed important in the development of sustainability policies and programs. Our work, I examine the legal dimensions of sustainability, and I've been a keen commentator on this aspect of the legal dimensions of sustainability. And so part of what we've found is that there is a need to transcend sectoral piecemeal approaches to sustainability planning, to a much more holistic, integrated approach. And I think if there is anything that has shown the world the importance of that holistic and interdisciplinary approach to planning, it is the COVID-19. And COVID-19 has shown us, ladies and gentlemen, that managing the impact of disruptive disasters requires that integrated and interdependent planning. And that's because disasters such as, whether you're talking about natural disasters or whether you're talking about human-induced disasters or whether you're talking about pandemic as well, they have interconnected impacts. And that's why we describe them as complex adaptive systems. The interdependent and collective behavior of social systems mean that when one aspect of the social system is affected, other aspects could be affected as well. For example, without water, we cannot produce energy. We cannot grow food. We cannot have commercial farming. So you see that failure to have a clear and coherent water policy may lead to problems in the energy and food sectors. And you can say the same of about energy. Without energy, we cannot produce food. We cannot distribute water. So this interconnectedness is why we now have a body of work, a body of scholarship known as the Water Energy Food Nexus. And there is a need for that nexus thinking in developing sustainability planning and policies, because if one aspect of the nexus is broken, then other aspects will collapse. And so I have been one of those calling for that integrated and holistic approach to disaster prevention, disaster mitigation, and disaster preparedness. So when we are talking about holistic disaster response, we're talking about the need for both pre-disaster measures and post-disaster measures. And by pre-disaster measures, we mean the need for a coherent anticipation, anticipating and preventing, reducing the occurrence and frequency of disruptive events, such as whether you're talking about pandemics or disruptive events that can affect the interconnected social systems. And when you're talking about post-disaster measures, you're talking about putting in place measures to provide timely, effective, and cost-efficient recovery from disruptive events as they occur in order to reduce their adverse impact and ensure early response, recovery, and reconstruction. And much of this has been clearly stated in the Sendai Framework for Disaster Reduction 2015 to 2030, as well as in the Arab Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction of 2020, including the African Regional Strategy for Disaster Risk Reduction of 2014. And I'm sure you can see that projecting in my slides. The need for that holistic disaster response recovery measure. And when you look at the SDGs and our efforts to achieve the SDGs, it becomes even clearer how lack of this systems approach during the COVID-19 response measures implemented by many countries, how lack of that integrated response measure led to significant problems. For example, COVID-19 affected the economic, social, and environmental aspects in different parts of the world. And some of the gaps we saw was absence or inadequacy of domestic disaster response reduction and response laws. You saw that a number of countries did not have laws in place to address the cross-cutting impact of the pandemic across different sectors. We saw problems related to weak conceptualization of pandemic-related risk in different legislation. We saw problems relating to pre-existing patterns of uneven water, energy, food access which was already affecting many countries, and COVID-19 has only escalated the problem. We're seeing again another issue that we need to talk about is the issue of lack of national disaster response and resilience strategy or roadmap. We saw that in a number of countries not having in place a clear and coherent disaster response and resilience roadmap. And without a roadmap, it is difficult to plan. Then you see different sectors responding in different ways. You see the water sector responding, the energy sector responding, the food responding in different ways, which did not bring about that coherent planning needed to address a significant disaster like COVID-19. Another issue that we need to think about deeply in the context of the MENA region is the issue of data collection and data sharing. The lack of statistical and reliable data on progress made in each of the SDGs, the challenges that remains a key problem. Because without data, as we say, data is life. Without reliable, clear, and coherent data, it is difficult to plan. Most of the sustainability planning that we see then become much like guesswork. How many people have access to water? How many people have access to reliable energy? How many people are covered by existing climate change adaptation and mitigation plan? Without a coherent and clear and reliable statistical data gathering and planning, it is difficult to have clear planning. So that's another issue that we saw very, very clearly with the COVID-19 response, not having the reliable data to guide response. Another issue is fragmentation of laws and responsibilities. Despite studies showing the interconnectedness of different social systems that and different elements that require that we need to achieve sustainability, we still see a wide range of laws that are still sectoral. In many countries, you see a situation whereby there is a separate energy law, a separate food law, a separate water law, and all of that, which is not the problem itself, but the real problem is how do each of these laws complement one another? Because without that connectedness, then you see a situation whereby the process required to complete climate mitigation and adaptation projects could be delayed by unnecessary bureaucratic approval processes. You go to the Ministry of Energy to get one approval. You go to the Ministry of Water to get one approval. The Ministry of Food to get one approval. Ministry of Transportation to get another approval. So failure to achieve that coherence and interconnectedness in laws mean that the time-sensitive climate mitigation and response projects that we need to complete, including renewable energy projects, could be unnecessarily and unduly delayed. And of course, that speaks to my next point on the need for interoperability as well. The need to ensure that many of the existing institutions are also interlinked through common technology platforms. What we saw in many countries in my field work, which has taken me to, since I've been working on sustainability, I mean, I've traveled far and wide. I've been to Africa, to Asia, to Europe, North America, to different parts of the world, including the Middle East. And one of the key problems that I see that a lot of countries across the world still need to address is the issue of interoperability, ensuring that there is real-time exchange of information between the different sustainability actors. If I'm in the energy ministry, I should be able to access the database on food or whatever other sector that I need, because that data may be useful for me to develop a coherent planning approach to what I'm doing. So that lack of interoperability through interlinked disaster response technologies and systems is a key issue that we need to address. And of course, the issue of resource is also important. In my experience and in my work, you see a number of ministries, struggling to be able to implement some of these up-to-date data management systems that we're talking about. So we see a clear need for increased funding, increased budgetary allocation, that will reflect the current contemporary challenges that many of these key agencies and ministries have to deal with, especially providing access to up-to-date technologies, providing access to up-to-date training, and providing access to statistical equipment that they need to be able to conduct instant survey and be able to monitor maybe current emission levels in different sectors and the like. So these are key issues that emphasize the need. So you see, due to these gaps, it is still quite clear that if we really want to move forward in terms of providing a clear, drawing lessons from the events of COVID-19 and learning how we can then develop more coherent responses to future disasters, then there is a need for a more systems approach. So that's why I describe it as there's a need for a systems approach to the governance of complex adaptive systems. There's a need for us to begin to think of how we can enhance coherence, interoperability, and interconnectedness in the development and implementation of sustainability policies and planning. And I propose the need for 5 I's, And some of these arguments, I put them in my recent article titled Sustainable Development and the Water Energy Food Nexus, Legal Challenges and Emerging Solutions. In that article, I unpacked the legal dimensions of sustainability and the sort of coherence that is needed to make progress, And I identified the need for 5 I's. I number 1 is institutions. Institutions relating to sustainability must be connected. Interconnectedness of institutions is very, very important. Through data sharing, through joint planning, through MOUs that can bring institutions together to plan, to reflect. Gone are the days whereby, we can have piecemeal sectors or piecemeal institutions doing different aspects of sustainability analysis and planning. The time has come, really, for us to begin to have that joint common understanding, common language between the different stakeholders and actors in sustainability to ensure that their planning is coherent and they're working together. The second I is information sharing, and I've talked a little bit about that. Under a systems approach, one system approach, as I call it, the need for a one system approach. Under a one system approach, there is a need for information sharing amongst the different institutions. The era of saying, oh, this information belongs to our ministry, does not belong to your ministry, that's an era that will not lead us to the rapid progress we need to make ahead of the year 2030, whereby we need to achieve the SDGs. So information sharing amongst the key stakeholders will be very, very key going forward. The next I is instruments, laws, and policies. The need to interlink instruments, laws, and policies to address trade-offs and ensure that instruments, by instruments we mean legislation and policies, are coherent. One policy is not saying this and the other saying that in an incoherent manner that will not drive sustainability agenda forward. There is a need for, the next I is infrastructure and technological solutions. There is a need to ensure, like I mentioned, common platforms, technological platforms that can enable planners and stakeholders to access statistical data in real time without delays. And the last I is the need for international coordination and cooperation at regional and global levels. And I think this event that we're having today demonstrates the power and potency of that international cooperation. We have key institutions across the region coming together to develop joint planning, joint research, joint scientific cooperation that will advance sustainability. And we need to see more of that, where sustainability issues are cross-cutting, they are global in nature. So addressing it in one country and leaving it out in another country will not lead to the solution that we need to see. So there is a need for that international coordination, international knowledge sharing, and that's why I commend SISH for spearheading such a wonderful event. And of course, I definitely look forward to future collaboration. So in conclusion, let me, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for listening, and I want to wish everyone a wonderful and remarkable conference, and I look forward to hearing about your outcomes on how we can strengthen a one systems approach to sustainability and to the implementation of some of the key climate mitigation and adaptation frameworks that are going to emerge post the COP27 that is happening in Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, shukran. Thank you. Bye.